In the last 2 decades, the rate of twin births has grown dramatically due to the use of fertility treatments. For many women who have faced fertility challenges, conceiving twins may seem like a desirable outcome. However, twin pregnancies can pose substantial health risks to moms and babies. If you are considering fertility treatments, how should you approach the possibility of having twins? I'm Dr. Brooke Friedman, an infertility specialist at Reproductive Partners. I'm here to talk about the relationship between fertility treatments and twin pregnancies. This is Twin Talks.
The ultrasound shows your babies to be healthy.
What? Did you say babies?
You're huge. Are you having twins?
Are they natural?
Which one do you like better?
Twins, huh? My neighbor's cousin's brother's uncle's a twin.
So can they read each other's minds?
How do you tell them apart?
Twins? You got a 2-for-1.
Do twins run in your family?
Double trouble. You're not having any more, are you?
At least you're not Octomom.
If you're pregnant with twins or you're an experienced twin parent, odds are you've heard it all before. Now it's time to hear from the experts. This is Twin Talks, Parenting Times 2. Welcome to Twin Talks, broadcasting from the Birth Education Center of San Diego. Twin Talks is your weekly on-the-go support group for expecting and new parents of twins. I'm your host, Christine Stewart Fitzgerald. Have you heard about the Twin Talks Club? Our members get bonus content after each new show, plus special giveaways and discounts. You can subscribe to our monthly Twin Talks newsletter and learn about the latest episodes available. And another way for you to stay connected is by downloading our free Twin Talks app available in the Android and iTunes marketplace. Well, before we get started, let's introduce our panelists in the room with us today. And let's see, I'll introduce myself. So I'm mom to now 5-year-old identical girls. We just celebrated their birthday last week, and we started kindergarten. So that was a big milestone for them. And I do have a singleton who will be 2 next month. So we got all girls in the house.
And I'm Sunny. I'm the owner of New Mommy Media, which produces this show, as well as Parent Savers, Preggy Pals, and the Boob Group. And let's see, I've got 4 kids. Sometimes I lose track, but there's 4. There's 4 of them. So the oldest is for a boy. 2 is my next child, and that's a boy as well. And then I have identical twin girls that are 10 months old.
I'm Shelly. I'm the producer here at Twin Talks. I have identical twin boys who just turned 2, and I have a singleton girl who is 3 weeks old. She's here in the studio today. I wanted to let you guys know, if you're listening at home, if you're not able to get into the studio, you can still be a part of our conversation. You can follow us on Facebook and Twitter. You can also use the hashtag TwinTalksVP to participate in the conversation. Before we start today's show, we have an app review for you. So as you all know, probably a phone can be a mom's best friend for keeping track of all things baby related. Today's app is called Mommy Log, and it's designed to keep track of expressed breast milk. So most twin moms will be familiar with a pump at some point in their journey of breastfeeding. What I like about this app is that it's really simple. So a lot of baby feeding or pumping apps have all the things to keep track of. What time did they go to sleep? What time did they wake up? What time did you feed? Was it left? Was it right? How many? How much? And that can be really overwhelming if you're just trying to keep track of one thing. And so for moms who are pumping, especially if you go back to work or if you end up exclusively pumping or you have feeding concerns, this one just keeps track of how much milk did you make? What time did you make it at? And so I think that can be really helpful. I know that when I was working, I was using an app to keep track of what I pumped, but all the other things kind of made me feel like I was slacking. Like, well, should I have recorded their sleep? And gosh, I forgot to put the last feeding and how many diapers have they had? And so for me, this would have been great because it's just very simple. And it would just keep track of exactly how much milk you kind of had on hand. It does have charts, so you can kind of see when did I make the most, when did I make the least, how many times have I pumped. So those are all pretty good features, I think. The one downside is it has ads. Obviously, it's a free app, so that's great. But I'd be definitely willing to pay to get rid of the ads on there because I find them just a little bit distracting.
Yeah, the one feature I really liked on this too, and this may have been an update that they did recently, but you can also, if you are using a double pump, you can say how much one breast is producing versus the other. Mm-hmm. You can combine it if you want. Like, for example, I don't do a lot of pumping because my girls take up all of my milk. But for example, on taping days like today, I do have to do some pumping before. And I have a single pump because I don't like to invest a lot of money in pumps. So I have a single pump. And so I actually combine mine, but I know a lot of moms that that have like the double pumps. It would be really easy to track how much one breast is producing over the other, if that's a concern of you. I know it's not always even, right? And so that's one thing that I really liked about it. I like that it's free.
Yeah.
And I do like that it is a very simple user interface. I do think that it could be a little bit prettier than it is, honestly. But it's functional. It's very functional, and it makes a lot of sense. But it'd be nice to have some pretty pictures of babies or something like that on here as well.
I haven't used the app, but I'll have to say, I hear a lot of, twin moms talking about how they're pumping in different locations. So if you're a working mom, that might mean you're pumping in a closed office. You might be in your car. You might be at home. And I think I love this idea that this is a portable thing that you can, it's on your phone. So you don't have to have a piece of paper or, board or something carry around with you. It's just wherever you're at doing it, it's right there.
It's very,
Yeah. That's a great thing.
Also, I noticed it has the option you can have it send you a spreadsheet. Of your pumping output. So if you were having like concerns with your milk production perhaps, or you just really wanted to know if that was normal, you can actually, there's an option, it'll just email it to you as a CSV, comma separated values, and you could print that out and take it to a lactation consultant and say, this is my pumping output, these are my averages, can you, is this normal, can you take a look at it?
Or even just send it via email.
Yeah, or you could just email it over to
IBCLC.
somebody. Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah. So what do we think? Thumbs up on this?
Definitely
we like this?
thumbs up.
Yeah.
Yep.
Awesome. Well, today's topic is fertility treatments and twin pregnancy. And today we're talking with Dr. Brooke Friedman, who's here to help us understand common fertility treatments and how they may result in a twin pregnancy. So, thanks for joining us, Dr. Friedman.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me.
Well, first of all, fertility treatments is becoming much more common. And maybe you can just share some of the different reasons that women do come to see you.
Absolutely. So I'm at Reproductive Partners. So that's a private practice in La Jolla that's affiliated with UCSD. And so we really see a wide variety of patients. So the majority of the patients we see are couples who are struggling with infertility. We know infertility is incredibly common, affecting 1 out of every 8 couples. So we do see a lot of women struggling with infertility. We also see women who perhaps are single, looking to conceive with donor sperm, or looking to do fertility preservation with egg freezing. So there's a wide variety of patients that we see, but most are couples struggling with infertility.
Now, so can you tell a little bit more about the demographics of your patients? Are there any commonalities in either age or their overall health or lifestyle?
Sure. I would say that it's a pretty diverse patient population that we see. I think the one commonality is that women tend to be a little bit older. We know that age does negatively impact fertility. So most of the patients we see tend to be in their 30s or mid 30s or late 30s or early 40s. But that being said, there are also reasons for infertility that have nothing to do with age, such as a blocked fallopian tube or male infertility. And so in those patients, we typically see women who are younger. So it's really a wide variety. I think the one myth is that really, if you kind of take care of yourself and eat organic and are healthy, that can kind of protect us from the negative impact on age on fertility. And unfortunately, it's not true. I wish it were true. But unfortunately, we're born with all the eggs we're ever going to have. So we do lose them over time. So unfortunately, age is something that we can't change, which is why I really encourage people, if they have been trying, if they're under the age of 35 and it's been more than a year, to see a fertility specialist. Or if they're over the age of 35, really, if it's been 6 months, to go see a fertility specialist for a checkup, just to make sure, they can check in about where they are and what may be the best path for them.
Mm-hmm. So really you can be really proactive in terms of just saying, hey, I don't know what's going on, but I just want to make sure that, good health and
Absolutely.
You've got everything in place. And
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I think, being healthy is one of the best things you can do for your fertility. So, taking care of yourself, being a healthy body weight, eating well, exercising, all of those things absolutely help your fertility. So I think as healthy as you can be, avoiding smoking, avoiding drugs, things, be as healthy as you can be. I sometimes tell people, how would you be if you were already pregnant in terms of avoiding some of these toxins? It makes sense to kind of think about that when you're trying to conceive.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's great. Well, so now before we talk about twin pregnancies, so let's look at some fertility treatments in general, just so we can kind of understand, what the fertility treatments mean. So can you describe the different types of treatments that are available?
Absolutely. So there's a wide variety of treatments. I think the one thing, one myth I'd like to dispel is people sometimes are reluctant to go to a fertility doctor because they think, oh, that means I'm signing up for IVF. And that's just not true. I mean, there's a wide variety of treatments that are available. One of which, if someone doesn't get periods regularly, if someone has what's called anovulation, they're not releasing an egg regularly, sometimes a low-tech treatment like Clomid or there are other medications we have now called letrozole can help them release an egg so that they can have intercourse at home with their partner to help them conceive. So that's one treatment if they're not ovulating on their own, if they're not releasing an egg on their own in a predictable manner. Really, the next category is what's called intrauterine insemination, where the sperm of the partner is placed inside the uterus around the time of ovulation, and that's typically combined with a medication to help increase its efficacy. So that's called intrauterine insemination, or IUI.
IUI.
Yeah,
okay.
exactly. Some of listeners maybe have heard IUI, but basically it's intrauterine insemination is what it stands for. And really the next category then is IVF. We do know that IVF is the most effective treatment that we have because it helps overcome a wide variety of obstacles that may be contributing to infertility. IVF stands for in-vitro fertilization. So a woman takes medications to stimulate multiple eggs to grow. They're retrieved with a procedure and then fertilized in the lab with the sperm. And then the embryo or fertilized egg is transferred back to the uterus.
Now, IVF is what we hear most about.
Right. Absolutely.
Is it the most common treatment that is used today, or are the other treatments that you mentioned, are those used equally? Or
Yeah, I think that IVF is becoming increasingly common. I think certainly IUI is quite common, but IVF is by far and away more effective than IUI is. We know that since IVF was introduced 35 years ago, over 5 million babies have been born worldwide from IVF. And in 2012, which was the most recent year that it was reported online with the CDC, 1.5% of all babies born in the U.S. was as a result of IVF treatment. So that's over 60,000 births. So it's definitely becoming more common. And we know that it's a really helps millions of people worldwide help conceive that otherwise would not have been able to.
And I think from a twin perspective, the statistics are that in the last 20 years, we've seen the twinning rate double, I believe. So,
right.
Which is pretty significant.
Right.
So of the pregnancies that are resulting from fertility treatments, so do you know how many of those are resulting in multiples?
Absolutely. So it depends on which treatment we're referring to and also which age group. So we know that looking at IVF specifically, the risk of a twin pregnancy goes up with younger age. So the younger a woman is and she's having IVF, that increases her risk. But really that stems for IVF is how many embryos that the physician is choosing to transfer, that the couple and the physician have decided to transfer. So the more embryos are transferred, the higher risk of there being a twin or higher order multiple pregnancy. Overall, about 30% of IVF treatments have resulted in twin pregnancies. That rate can be even higher in younger age groups in certain clinics. But nationally, that rate is quite high.
Wow. So 30% of all IVF treatments, on average, are resulting in multiple pregnancy.
It depends. It varies in terms of which clinic and also varies in terms of age group. But there is definitely a very significant percentage of IVF pregnancies resulting in twin birth.
Wow.
Do you have percentages for Clomid? Because I know that's a concern.
Yeah, absolutely. So the risk of twins with Clomid is about 8 to 10%.
That's lower than I would have thought from what we hear.
Yeah, it actually is lower. And so typically the success rates with an IUI with Clomid are actually only generally don't exceed 10%. So that's why with IVF, with live birth rates substantially higher than that, depending on the age group, up to 70% sometimes for younger women. That's why IVF really is tends to be the more effective treatment.
So when women are considering different treatment options and looking at whether they want to have twins, that's definitely something to consider. Maybe trying the Clomid or the IUI. First,
I guess I have to say, from my perspective as a fertility specialist and where I work at Reproductive Partners, we are actually really strong advocates of one healthy baby at a time. So I know I'm talking to a group of moms who are moms of twins, and you can kind of speak to some of the challenges involved in that. From a medical perspective, we do know that the safest pregnancy is one healthy baby at a time. So our position is that fertility treatment really should not be, the goal should not be to conceive twins.
Right.
So really our goal is one healthy baby at a time, because we really want moms to be able to avoid the potential complications that can be involved with a twin pregnancy.
All right. Well, we're going to take a break. And then when we come back, we're going to talk about some of the common factors that might lead to a twin pregnancy. Welcome back. Today we're talking with Dr. Brooke Friedman about the relationship between fertility treatments and twin pregnancies. Can you tell us maybe a little bit more about what factors in fertility treatments may promote a multiple pregnancy?
Absolutely. So with let's say an intrauterine insemination, for example, when a woman takes medications like injectable medications that stimulate multiple eggs to grow, then multiple eggs are going to be released. And with an insemination where sperm is placed in the uterus, we don't have control over how many eggs fertilize. So all of those eggs that develop have the potential to be released and fertilized. So that is called superovulation, can definitely increase the chance of having a twin pregnancy. That's with intrauterine insemination, with injectable medications, or with Clomid. Whenever there's more than one egg that develops as a result of medications that are taken, that can increase the chance of having a twin pregnancy. With IVF, it's slightly different because it really stems from how many embryos are chosen to be placed back into the uterus. And so those are kind of the two ways that the chance of a twin pregnancy can be increased.
Both of those would result in dizygotic or fraternal twins.
Absolutely.
Right?
You're absolutely right. Yeah.
And now when it comes to IVF and, selecting how many embryos are going to be implanted. Now, I've heard that the success rate of IVF and implantation has gone up dramatically. And so the standards and the ethical standards have changed.
It has. Yeah. I mean, I think, if you look at it's in the Netherlands or other places in Europe, in many cases, it's actually illegal to transfer more than one embryo.
Wow.
So a single embryo transfer is mandated because if you look at those healthcare systems, which are a closed system, where in that system, they're going to be responsible for taking care of the costs of preterm delivery of twins, for example. It's really the state has decided they know that the safest pregnancy is a singleton pregnancy. And so in those countries, they've come together and mandated that and one embryo should be transferred at a time. So you're absolutely right that the implantation rate, the pregnancy rate per embryo has gone up dramatically. And I think one of the things that it's important for people to understand is how to interpret statistics, which can be pretty confusing. So if you go on SART.org, which is where fertility clinics are encouraged to report their statistics with IVF, there are many things listed, and one of which is pregnancy rate per transfer. And unfortunately, that's a motivating factor for many fertility doctors to want to be aggressive at transferring multiple embryos because it can artificially make the pregnancy rate per transfer look higher. But the best thing to look at is really implantation rate, which is pregnancy rate per one embryo. And that's not influenced by how many embryos are transferred. So really, for implantation rate, we know, as you mentioned, is much higher. For us, we know our implantation rate, for example, at Reproductive Partners, is quite high. So we have excellent success rates transferring one embryo at a time, particularly in younger women. And so single embryo transfer may not be the right decision for each patient. It's really important to come up with a personalized plan. But I would really encourage patients approaching fertility treatment to discuss with their physicians about the option of single embryo transfer, because often, it's a clinic that has experience with that and their pregnancy rate per embryo is high, they're not going to be compromising their chances and really giving themselves the best chance at a healthy pregnancy.
And so this is really part of the research process too, I imagine, when a woman deciding she wants to engage in fertility treatments and looking for a provider to use the website as a resource and come prepared in asking questions about what is your implantation rate. So
I would say, I think often that's unfortunately buried kind of 7 lines down on SART. So the first line is, and it's not explained what that is. What is implantation rate?
Right.
Pregnancy rate per transfer is that makes sense, right? But the implantation really isn't something we talk about. I think that really should be the first line. And I think the CDC and other organizations are trying to change how this, fertility data is reported and to consider looking at, live births per single embryo transfer and looking at other metrics that can really help kind of tease apart the data, because it can be a mess. I don't want to overemphasize that because every clinic is different. It's hard to generalize, and you can take data with a grain of salt. But I think that's a place to start, to kind of look at what the pregnancy rate is per one embryo, so patients aren't in a position where they feel they have to transfer multiple embryos and put them at a higher risk of having a multiple pregnancy.
Right. Absolutely. And I think, okay, we having this conversation, I mean, everyone comes to mind of the Octomom. So we can't leave that out. But I mean, in that case, there were multiple embryos.
There were.
transferred.
And that was a really egregious example of something outside the standard of care. And that physician lost his medical license, as he should have. So I think that was a real black eye for the field. And it's really something that is not the standard of care and not the norm. So I think really, as fertility specialists, as you mentioned, there are guidelines, and we are really careful to want to avoid something like that, and to the point where we really strive to help people achieve one healthy baby at a time. So for us at Reproductive Partners, we know we really want to have an uncomplicated pregnancy. For couples, that, infertility is such a journey, and at the end of it, I understand that desire to want to have instant family, to have all their kids at once, and I absolutely can appreciate that, and I respect it. But at the end of the day, I really want my patients to have a healthy baby, and not to be, in a position where they feel like they have to be transferring multiple embryos.
So, in talking to some of my friends who had used fertility treatments, strangely, all of us in here have identical twins. We're completely spontaneous, but traveling in twin circles, we all know somebody.
Sure.
So I was talking about the increased success of single embryo transfers, and what I was hearing from a lot of moms was, we get that their numbers are on their side now, but after so many years of just like heartache and struggle, it's really hard to find comfort in statistics. And so how do you kind of deal with that in your practice, knowing that you have the numbers on your side, but they've got heartache and struggle, and
absolutely,
they really want the what they feel would be better success, and if they're only going to have one chance and they've always wanted to, like, how do you kind of address that emotional concern?
Absolutely. And I think it's a really important question. I think one of the things that's really been a game changer in the field of fertility is the way in which we're freezing embryos now. So the old way in which we used to freeze embryos compromised their fertility potential. The new way of flash freezing or vitrification, which is what I gave a talk at the family fair fairly recently, we know that the fertility potential of the embryos are not harmed in that freeze thaw process if it's at a clinic that has a lot of experience with that procedure. And so we know that patients don't have to feel blackmailed to transfer all their embryos at once. They can rest assured that they can have their extra embryos frozen. And if the first transfer is not successful, that next month they can transfer another embryo. And their cumulative chance of success is the same, really, as opposed to them having to transfer two that same month, as opposed to waiting, transferring one, and then the next month transferring another embryo. So they don't have to feel as pressured to say, okay, this is my chance, I have to transfer them all at once. So I hear it all the time, and I'm very empathetic to that concern, but at the same time, I just kind of really encourage patients to take a step back and to think about kind of, they've come this far, and what we really want them to have is a healthy pregnancy. Interestingly, IVF twins are at increased risk of preterm delivery above those of spontaneous twins, for reasons that we may not understand all of them, but it's a complex emerging area of research. But we know that IVF twins are at increased risk of things like preterm delivery, above and beyond those of what spontaneously conceived twins would have. So really, 68% of IVF twins deliver prematurely. So the statistics are pretty staggering. And so now that the implantation rates are higher with single embryo transfer, I just talk with my couples and say, I really think these would be your chances, and would you consider transferring one at a time? Again, it's not the right decision for all couples, but I think we just have to really individualize it. But often it really is the right decision.
And when you have those conversations with your patients, and talking about the risks of a twin, multiple pregnancy, I mean, what does that conversation look like?
Absolutely. So basically, I have a talk on my in my office, and I have slides, and I kind of go through everything. But basically, I share with them that there is an increased risk of preterm delivery with twin pregnancy, especially with IVF twins. And if babies are born prematurely, unfortunately, they're at increased risk of complications later in life in terms of neurologic outcomes and other outcomes that relate to preterm delivery. So I really discuss with them the various health risks of a twin pregnancy, and then talk about why I feel like if single embryo transfer is what I'm recommending, that would be the right decision for them.
Well, this is great. Well, thanks so much to everyone who's joined us today. And for more information about fertility treatments and twin pregnancy, or for more information about any of our speakers and panelists, visit the episode page on our website. Now, this conversation continues for members of our Twin Talks Club. This conversation continues for members of our Twin Talks Club. And after the show, Dr. Friedman will demystify some of the common beliefs about fertility treatments and twinning. For more information about the Twin Talks Club, visit our website, newmommymedia.com.
All right, we have a fun segment today. It is called We're Expecting What? And it is all about the funny stories of how we found out we were pregnant with twins. And this one comes from Michelle. Michelle writes, I felt pregos and I was going past the docs and I thought I'll go in there and get a test done so I don't have to pay for one at home. The test was positive. I burst into tears. A pregnancy right now isn't the greatest timing, so we had to wait 2 weeks to get an ultrasound to see how far we were. But when we went just short of 2 weeks, because I just couldn't wait, the conversation went something like this. Me, this is just a misunderstanding, isn't it? Sonographer, why? Have you been cramping or bleeding? Me, no, I was just joking. Just don't tell me it's twins. Sonographer, why is that? Did your doctor say your pregnancy hormone levels were extremely high? Me, no, just joking again. Sonographer, well, you are having twins. Me, shut up. Then she showed us on our monitor the 2 little sacs, each with its own beating heart. My partner Richard and I walked out in shock. So Michelle, thank you for sharing your story. If you guys have a interesting story, we all do, right? When we find out we're pregnant with twins, go ahead and send us an email. You can also call our voicemail at 619-866-4775.
That wraps up our show for today, and we appreciate you listening to Twin Talks. Don't forget to check out our sister show, Preggy Pals for expecting parents, and our show, The Boob Group, for moms who breastfeed their babies, and Parent Savers, your parenting resource on the go. This is Twin Talks, Parenting Times 2.
This has been a New Mommy Media production. The information and material contained in this episode are presented for educational purposes only. Statements and opinions expressed in this episode are not necessarily those of New Mommy Media and should not be considered facts. While such information and materials are believed to be accurate, it is not intended to replace or substitute for professional medical advice or care, and should not be used for diagnosing or treating healthcare problem or disease or prescribing any medication. If you have questions or concerns regarding your physical or mental health or the health of your baby, please seek assistance from a qualified healthcare provider.
New Mommy Media is expanding our lineup of shows for new and expecting parents. If you have an idea for a new series, or if you're a business or organization interested in joining our network of shows through a co-branded podcast, visit newmommymedia.com. Hey mamas, don't forget to check out Mighty Moms. It's our online community built for new moms just like you. Not only can you connect with other moms, but you can also join us backstage for special mom-only online events. And you'll also be notified when we're recording so you can join us as a special guest. Visit our website, newmommymedia.com, and click on the Mighty Moms banner. It's free. That's newmommymedia.com. See you there.